Hey everybody, welcome back to chapter 2. This chapter is selling your physical product and committing to the goal. The last chapter, in chapter 1, we went over understanding customer needs and both the beginning and towards the ends of the sales funnel, working with customers and some of the questions you might get hit with, along with some of the harsh realities of working with brands and kind of getting to know them in the inner circle of things in your industry and your space. So a few of the things I wanted to go over in this chapter that might help you is confidence, building a confidence meter, always thinking, ahead of the game, learn to ask questions, have an internal meter, when to kind of cut off of things and when to, end the day and close out, know your product, research it into, your competitors and their product that, your competitors are taking your customers away, and asking, how people heard about you in terms of marketing and kind of going into, both the marketing and sales side of the funnel. So first things I wanted to kick off are building a confidence meter with your team and yourself. I think a lot of people, whether they come from another career path or, they're just transitioning into this field, they could be an industry expert, but with low confidence. They could be, brand new with high confidence. You could get a guy that's really killer, really confident in himself, talk for an hour on the phone and, feel like he killed the conversation. So there's a lot of people in the industry and different spaces where they think they're going to absolutely dominate. And when you look into detail and you start looking back at things, they're really just saying and spieling off maybe some of the basics that they've learned when they've gotten into the industry, but it's nothing really a key performance or something that's going to really alternatively keep that company with you. It could also be negatively impacting your brand and company. So I would really gauge, your team's confidence and kind of set a meter. Do you have a sales guy or gal that is at a 1 out of 10? Do you have someone that's a 10 out of 10? Really dig in deep and find out where those strengths and weaknesses are. Confidence is killer when you have a great person on the phone, but it's not going to mean anything if they don't know anything about your product or you don't know anything about your product and you're just spewing out data to these prospects and potentially ruining relationships if you're not really getting anywhere or you feel like you're wasting their time. You could really sound like an amazing person over the phone, and if that prospect or that customer gets off the phone and they feel like they haven't said or pretty much gotten anything out about their company and have only heard about you or your brand or the products that you're selling, but not much data, not much interchangeable meaning in the overall conversation. Really kind of dig in deep as well. Are you a 1 on the meter? Are you a 5 on the meter? Are you a 10 on the meter? If you feel like you're a 10 on the meter, you're probably not. You're probably more of like a 7 or an 8 and you're getting there. If you're a 10, you really got to be super confident. You can't really break down on the phone if you get stumped. Like, that confidence is going to override everything. And I think a healthy medium is having yourself or your team at a healthy 8, because if you get to a 10, what it boils down to is you start making up lies or falsifying information, and you could say that with the utmost confidence and really be souring a relationship. So I would suggest staying at a healthy 8. Really think about what you're saying. Don't shoot out the door like you're the smartest person in the room or on the phone. You always got stuff to learn. Use the information and really go off of that. So I would really lean into having a confidence meter with your team and let them, explain where they feel they're at on that meter and gauge from there. If you got someone who's saying they're a 10, sit them down and talk and listen on a few conversations, because if they're a 10, I'm going to be very honest with you, because I thought I was a 10 when I first started, they're probably full of shit. So you probably want to sit there and listen in on their conversation for at least maybe an hour a week, 2 hours a week. If they say they're an 11 or 12, 40 hours a week, they're really full of shit at that point. So if you have someone at a 1 on the confidence meter, they're probably on their way out. And depending on how long they've been with the company and they have 0 to 1% confidence, they need to be out the door. You have such a limited time with a customer on the phone. If you have someone who thinks their confidence on the meter is a 1 or a 0, you've either fucked up in the situation on hiring them and training them, or they are not confident, they've told you they're not confident, or you've seen information, conversations, data in their emails, the phone, that they're not confident and you just haven't done anything about it. So if your team's telling you they're healthy 5, 6 to 7, 8, that's killer. They're being transparent. They have stuff to work on. Get them to that 8. Get them to that 9. Start worrying if you're at a 1 or 10. Moving on to the next topic is something that kind of coincides with confidence is when I tell people who are new to sales or I start training people in sales, what you really need to think about, and you really should close your eyes for this and really let this sink in. So when I start training new people or I start talking to new people in sales who aren't confident or feel like they have nothing to say, or they don't really know themselves that much, is always think of when you're 90 years old in a hospital bed laying there, right? So whether you're at a show where you're walking around, going into a retail space, talking to customers, on the phone with a customer, trying to make or break, just think about when you're 90 years in a hospital bed. Really just close your eyes and think about that. You're 90 years old in a hospital bed. You are thinking about anything in life, your spouse, dogs, family, children, if you have any, close friends, relatives. You're really looking at everything in life and consolidating it into these core memories, and you're laying on a bed and you're aging away. You're basically aging away and fading away. And think about that for almost anybody you talk to. No matter how bad you could screw up a pitch in a boardroom, no matter how bad you could speak to someone over the phone about selling your product, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Everybody is going to be, at some point, if they're lucky, of old age, at 90 years old, in a hospital bed, fading away, right? No one's thinking about you. No one's thinking about how you started stuttering and sweating and you had pit stains in the boardroom, or, you're worried about, how you sounded on the phone to a customer. You called them the wrong name in a pitch. No one cares at the end of the day. They may laugh about you in the office. They may say, oh, look who's emailing us today or who's calling us today. No one cares at the end of the day. We're all going to age out and, die at some point. So piggybacking off of the confidence meter is always think about at the end of life when you're fading away. No one's worried about that pitch. They're thinking about their family. They're thinking about their lives. They're thinking about what they did in life. That no one cares about that bad pitch. No one cares about how well you interpreted, or gosh darn, he really sold me those toothpaste containers back in 2024. So really have an ideal focus of focus on what you're doing, but at the end of the day, nothing is going to be perfect. It's never going to come out 100% how you wanted it to. You're going to be fine, right? So never be afraid to walk into a pitch. Be scared of picking up the phone and calling somebody, because that's another human being on the end, right? We're all in the same boat. We all shit. We all go to bed. We all feed our pets. We all give our spouse a hug or a kiss when we get home. It's life, right? You fuck up a pitch, big deal. Call the next person. There's millions and millions and millions of prospects and sales customers out there that you can move on to, right? So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But what makes you a winner and what separates you from the rest of the pack is you're going to move on and keep trucking. That's basically what it boils down to at the end of the day, because the others, they're going to sit there and mope about it, walk around the office, talk about it for half an hour, go to lunch, come back, be scared to pick up the phone, send 2 emails, get in their car at 5, and go home. That's what separates you from the rest of the pack. You blew it, go on to the next one. You killed it, great, go on to the next one. Leading into my third point in this video is learn to ask questions to your team and internal surroundings to get better with your sales and learning about your physical products. So from a entry-level position to a C-suite director level, you can always learn more about your surroundings, especially if you're newer to the industry or the space. So you really want to make connections with your peers, your management, your colleagues, your connections. Even if you own the company, it would show so much to ask, your colleagues, your employees, how they feel about the product, what they're hearing from the industry, what's going on in the industry. Everyone has a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different views and points to be made. So always listen in, whether you're entry level and you're a janitor or, you're the CEO of a company. Always talk to your people, always talk to your peers, socialize with people in the same space that don't necessarily even work at your company. You can always learn more and become a better person, become a better salesperson, become a better human being at the end of the day. So learn to ask questions to your team and internal surroundings, and also ask customers, the same questions. Ask them about their peers, their management, their colleagues. What are they doing in their business to be better, to learn more about the product, to better themselves in their day-to-day lives with your interactions together on this product or this service you're offering, and kill it. Just kill it. My fourth topic is have an internal meter, and that doesn't mean work 80 hours a week. That just means have an internal meter where where you're getting to that point or that boiling point where you're going to shut down and start making bad decisions. I've seen this a lot in executive role levels. I've seen this in entry level roles. A lot of people in this today, job market environment, a lot of people think they have to either work 80 hours a week or 40 hours a week. And to me, it doesn't really depend on how many hours you work in a week. It depends on how much effort you put in those work weeks. To me, in my perspective, I'll work a healthy 40 hours to 60 hours. It just depends on how motivated I am for the week. It depends on what I've got going on for the week. But you have to have that internal meter. And when it starts going off, you need to know when to either close out for the day or just take a break. I've seen a lot of people in roles where they want to push the hours. They think 80 hours, 60 hours a week are going to make them a better person overall. They think they're killing it just because they're there on the clock. Salary or the clock, however you want to put that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're putting in the effort. It doesn't mean you're making good decisions. I've spoken to people, I've worked with people who could make a $1 million decision in an hour and sit on that and close out their day, and they made a brand $1 million. A lot of people are very quick to jump on a bandwagon, to agree, or to think they have to make a decision in that second. And, those are people who are working those late hours, who aren't clear-headed, who aren't taking lunches, who aren't spending time with their family. They want to pull the trigger and defend whatever answer comes about it. Whatever solution they come up with, you fire that gun and then you say sorry later, right? So have an internal meter of when you need to shut down, when you need to close out the day and move on with your work, because realistically, if you're in that healthy mindset at work and you feel comfortable there, you feel healthy in a mental space, 40 hours, you're going to get so much more done. You're going to have that mentality of, I slept well, I know what I'm doing, I'm making good decisions, and I'm not rushing it. Give yourself time to think about opinions, let that sink in. If someone asks a question, you don't always have to answer it right there and then. If it's a very important question, you really should take time to consider all of the consequences, all of the benefits, really ease into that and understand who you are, what the decision is, and what the objective is ahead, and if it aligns with you and your company needs. My fifth topic on this discussion is knowing your product. Did you create your product? Do you sell multiple products? What's your top seller? What's not selling? So some of these are some of the key components that brands will often ask me a lot of the time when they're selling their own product or what they're developing. So, if I make a computer, they want to know if we created that product, if we're reselling it, if we've made it, if we've purchased it elsewhere and redistributing it, if we've got a guy in the back making these PC towers and selling monitors with them. All of these different aspects and situations could arise. So you also have to look at it from the customer mind and get transparency on that end. So if you're not being transparent with your customers, if you're not being transparent about your brand, customers are always going to have a second thought in their head about who you are, what you're doing, and are you deceiving them or being deceitful? And that's not going to work out well. So always try to know the best about your product, how it's made, if you're making it, what's included in it, how are those products being sourced, or those materials being sourced. And you really just have to be a transparent partner in those situations. Another key topic to piggyback off of that is, what's selling, what's the top seller, what is working, what's not working. So in your business space, always know what kind of product is selling. You may be selling like a specific product at your brand, or you're comfortable selling one product and you may have 10 SKUs. Learn those other SKUs, ask the other salespeople, or ask your management, or your CEO, or if you're the CEO, ask your team, hey, what's been selling. If you're the CEO, I'd hope you know what your top seller is, but there's brands who don't. They're focused on other things, which is okay, but know what is selling in your industry space. Know what other colleagues are selling, how they're selling it. If you've got a guy selling millions of dollars of product, maybe pick his brain. Hey, how are you selling this? You may get a few different responses, but hey, how are you selling this? It's always a good topic to discuss, because that's where your money's coming from. So get your boots dirty, get in the mud, roll up your sleeves. Hey, what's popular this week? Or hey, what's been selling? Or hey, what do you guys see that's trending this week? And get in there. My next point and topic is research into competitors and selling similar products. This kind of ties into what we just discussed there in terms of top selling, what are your competitors selling. You could have a competitor in the industry that is killing it, and you see thousands and thousands of interactions on TikTok or Instagram or socials or LinkedIn, and see all comments and likes flooding in whenever they launch a new product or provide a new resource or put out a poll for their customers and asking questions. So really dig into your competitors, because number one, if you're not doing well in the industry, that means one of your competitors is. And that's scary, because your team could not be transparent enough. They could not be listening to the customers. They could have pissed someone off, and they may have went to a competitor. There's so many different things and variables that could be going on internally and externally, that you just always have to be in that mindset of what is going on around me and what is going on in my inner circle. So a lot of the time your inner circle is not going to be very transparent if they did something wrong, so you have to go and look around and see what's going on with your competitors. Did they launch a new product? Is something being launched that you discussed internally that you didn't want to go through with, and now your competitors launched it? Did they have a huge discount sale? Are they going out of business? See what is in your world and your realm and really dig into it and start asking questions. It's never a bad thing to ask too many questions, because at some point you're going to get the answers you need, and you're probably going to be a little bit more happier about the end result and working toward that. My last point and my last topic I wanted to discuss and kind of adjust and go over to is ask people how they heard about you and your product and what made them want to purchase that product and give you money. So if you really think about it, I'm sure everybody who's been listening to this has been at a point in their life where they've been broke. They've essentially had no money in their bank account, and they didn't think about buying a product that they couldn't use, a product that is probably useful in their day-to-day life, but they don't have the money to do it. So you have to really think about it from that angle of, this person worked X amount of hours to get this amount of money, and then they just gave me that money because they like what I'm selling, what I'm pitching, what I advertised. So never be shy to ask someone how they heard about you, because that could have been from a show, that could have been from a marketing angle, that could have been from a salesperson, that could have been, someone you talked to at a gas station and you had your employee uniform on with your logo. That could have been an employee's best friend who they grew up in college with or went to high school with, and they learned about you through a Facebook group. There's so many different avenues how people could hear about you and your product, and if there's enough of those people coming at you about the product and from those same avenues, you really have to pump more money in those. You could have an employee advocate really killing it in their social life and telling all their friends about your product, and you would never know. So really go after those brands and those customers who are really supporting you, and kind of just ask them. There's going to be nothing wrong with asking them, and hell, give them a discount if they talk to you, or put a credit in for them, or send them, a free little sample of a new launch that's coming out, or keep them in the loop. Something new's coming out, give them a free sample. I'm sure they're going to talk about it as soon as they get it to their friends and family. If you're in that B2C kind of industry, B2B would probably be a little bit more harder. But you could always network, and you can always be a good person. So that's could be your number one, resource, is being a self-advocate of your brand. If you're the CEO, you're always selling no matter what. It doesn't matter your work week, because every waking second is your life in your company, and you have to be an advocate for it, because it ultimately boils down to how you close your company out and how you represent it, because you are pretty much the initial ambassador, the first employee. So kill it every single day of your life. But to close out on that, I really want to circle back and kind of inspire confidence in you, and give you that energy that you need to really go into the office and give it your best, because we're all trying. We really are. And even though some people, like your customers, your brand, your family, may not give you that respect in that lifestyle that you're trying to please everybody in your brand or your customers, you won't please everybody, but at the end of the day, you're trying and you're bettering yourself, and just remember that matters. So I want to close chapter 2 out here. Stay tuned for chapter 3. I am trying to get better at becoming, a better person, a better salesperson all the time. So I hope you enjoy these chapters that I'm releasing, and it's really helping you better as a person. These are all uncut. These are all me staring at a monitor and not reading off the script, just bullet points. So I'm really giving you an in-the-depth look of my mind and a day-to-day life of sales and trying to make you better. So I really appreciate you listening, and stay tuned for chapter 3, and have a good day. This is Zach with Thrive Tactics. Thank you. Bye bye.